Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Time Traveler's Handbook. Today we are talking about Season 7, Episode 10 of Doctor Who, titled Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. Spoilers ahead. In this episode, the Doctor forces a salvage crew to rescue his new companion, Clara, from the depths of the TARDIS after it is damaged by the crew's tractor beam. I've wanted to talk a little bit more about the TARDIS and its vast, infinite interior, and this is the perfect episode to do so. We've already touched before on the TARDIS and its nature of being a pocket dimension, but this episode takes the meaning of outside of time to a whole different level for the TARDIS. Many times when we think about the TARDIS and its infinite size, what we're actually thinking about is the fact that it just doesn't end on the inside. There are infinite rooms, hallways, and other things all connected within the TARDIS, but you don't dare go delving into it since it's essentially a labyrinth. What makes it even more so is that the TARDIS is not just a spatial labyrinth where there are twists and turns like a maze, but a temporal labyrinth, meaning that you could end up in parallel versions of the engine room, for instance, or in the past or future of the engine room, or any amount of orientations of the TARDIS throughout all time and space. The plot of this episode primarily revolves around the characters running into future versions of themselves that the TARDIS has sent to kill them and stop the crew's theft of TARDIS parts. Naturally, getting sent into the labyrinth that is the TARDIS gets quickly out of hand, and this is causing tremendous strain on the TARDIS itself. The real problem of what's going on is that the tractor beam is still active, causing problems for the TARDIS, meaning that it needs to be switched off beforehand, and they wouldn't have had any problems at all, but it's already too late. Of course, we're talking about time travel here. The Doctor sends a past version of himself, basically with a time reset button that reverts time to before the events of the episode, erasing that version where the tractor beam had caused problems and stopped them from a lot of other things happening that would have ended up in catastrophic failure. This is an interesting case where there was a timeline that resulted in that catastrophic failure and a one-time reset button that takes you back to the start, and then they choose a different direction and that alternate timeline that they were in for the entire episode no longer exists. Naturally, we can chalk a lot of this up to the TARDIS being a weird sentient time machine and a pocket dimension to be able to allow for such things to happen. But it also helps that these events don't tremendously contribute to any of the key events in the main timeline, which means it's a little bit more flexible to go in and change the past and end up in a new timeline. So essentially, the TARDIS is a temporal labyrinth. That's the key thing that we can take away from this. And temporal labyrinths are essentially just mazes with time travel mechanics mixed in with them. And that's really interesting to me, something that you can explore even further. And I really enjoyed this episode for its exploration of new topics in this pocket dimension. That's it for this episode. Next time we're going to be talking about the season finale of Season 7, The Name of the Doctor. As always, thank you for listening.